It is the Blue Room. I am Matt Jones. I am joined by Jake Mills this week and Mick Green. Oh, Jake, how are you?
I'm very positive, happy, and content. We ever introduced the Blue Room like that before?
No, no, certainly not. It's just amazing, isn't it? I've got the Christmas tree to my right, which you can see. Everton are winning. I
It's
love this time of year, and just Everton being good. It just adds to the festivities, I think.
yeah, it's drink, eat, and be merry has never felt more apt.
Yeah, eat, drink, and be toffees. Mick, how are you as well, mate? Are you in the festive spirit yet, or are you still not quite there?
Not sure I'm in the festive spirit just yet, but
I mean,
definitely still.
I just realised it's the 13th of December, so you've not got
Yeah,
long to get
I
there.
know, I know. I keep on like every morning at the moment. Keep on waking me up, wake myself up. Like I need to start getting me Christmas presents sorted today. I keep on doing it. And the next morning I'll be like, I'll do it today. I need to get me Christmas presents sorted today. It's not happening. Personally, I blame the fact that I'm still on like an emotional high after last Thursday, to be honest. And it was, no Sunday, last Thursday, just, yeah, still on a high from that, to be honest.
Well, I
Yeah,
actually think that's really sensible because you could be getting some like absolutely horrific presents if you just went on a spending spree right now.
Exactly, yeah.
like everyone would be getting like loads of Everton gear, wouldn't they, for the presents? Like I nearly bought a an Everton Christmas jumper for the dog yesterday.
And that's
That
exactly
that
it.
that's how happy I am about Everton at the moment. But I took a deep breath and just like like that meme. It's like the paw on your hand saying that's enough internet for today. It was very it was very much that for me. But listen, if we win on Saturday, I'll be buying matching ones for me and the dog. But just been a boss week, hasn't it, Jake? Just like I think Mick said there. The Forest win. We all not maybe expect isn't the right word, but it wasn't a surprise, was it? That we went there and won. But to follow it up with 3-0 Newcastle, 2-0 Chelsea, Goodison, great under the lights, great in the low winter sunshine, which I absolutely love at this time of year as well. It's just been an absolutely perfect week, hasn't it, on the pitch?
It honestly really has. I think in terms of Forest, as you said, I think there was more a hope than an expectation, a hope with I think we can. But I have to say, this week has been unbelievable. I think um from a personal perspective as well. Thursday went with my friend from London, and it's like it was around our birthdays, and we were able to have a really nice time there. But on Sunday, I took my son to his first ever Everton game, and well, his first ever football game, really, apart from he went to see a Marine game once, I think. And do you know what? He's not being a football fan really. The expectations, I'd say, we're a little bit off. So he was asking me about, like, was the shops there and all that, and I was like, there's a shop outside, and then he was like, and can you like get on the pitch and all that afterwards and play? And I was like, well. He went, well, you did, didn't you? I was like, well, yeah, but not really loud. And then he said, how many people are there? I said, about 38, 39,000. He was like, how many was in our school? And I was like, about 600. So his expectation, I didn't know how he was going to manage. And you know what? Like, I think just from he's going to be 8 next week. And I said to my wife, I've waited 8 years for this, but I haven't. I've actually waited 20 odd years for that moment. And I think I was probably more nervous than him because I was just thinking, please just win. And you know what? Like the moments that we had there, especially when we scored the second goal, because when we scored the second goal, we knew we'd won. And yeah, just absolutely magical, just a magical, magical moment that will live with both of us for forever. So yeah, whether he goes again or not, I don't really care at the moment because it was just such an amazing week with a perfect end.
Oh, I mean, that's so beautiful. And it's like, did he keep his attention like all the way through? Because like I've got like a nephew who started going like the similar age, and so nephew, a cousin at like a similar age, and like when like his dad took him, like he had to take like an iPad and like bits and
Yeah,
pieces because like he thought like after an hour he's not gonna stop, he's not gonna pay attention for that long. But was it the sort of game and like the finish which was like made sure he was like
yeah,
locked in the entire time?
Yeah, I was amazed by it. I said he's not really been like into football, but he paid attention the whole time. He was yeah, because he's a shy, awkward kid as well. You know, he's not going to get up and be shouting and screaming. When we first scored our first goal, I looked down. He was still sat on his seat. He hadn't got up yet, and I was like, "You can get up." And then after that, every time anyone stood up, he was jumping on the seat to look, and he's like, "Go on, go on, go on, go on." And then when they were at Chelsea going the other end, he's going, "Don't score, don't score, don't score." And yeah, and then he was stood up on his seat and saw the goal, and yeah, completely. I said, I don't know whether he's going to be gripped now or not, but he got in really involved in the game and completely kept his attention. So perfect, absolutely perfect day.
Well, I mean, he couldn't have had a better start, could he? In terms of match
You
going,
know,
beating Chelsea. Like I don't know what my first game was, but the first one I remember was John Collins missing a penalty for us on
yeah,
his
and
debut.
I
So
I think that probably set you up better for life, though, didn't
it was a more realistic
it?
Everton start. Do you remember what your first game was, Mick?
Yeah, I do. 2-0 against Watford, 2006.
Oh, I mean, that doesn't feel long ago at all. That makes me
No.
feel. Was that the Andy Johnson debut game?
Yeah. Andy Johnson, and Arteta scored from a penalty, I think.
Yeah. Do you
We
remember
found
yours,
it.
Jake?
No, I don't. That's why I was like, I'm taking photos, I'm getting a program, I'm going to do all this thing. No, I've got no idea. And I've asked my dad, and he's got no idea either. So it was obviously good.
Amazing, amazing. But make it like Sunday, like Jake said, they're amazing for loads of reasons. But I think when me and Paddy spoke last week, you were a bit more scared about Thursday and Newcastle and the prospect of facing them more than Chelsea. So, I mean, to send them both packing in the way in which they did, quite similar ways the games panned out, really, with the late goals and then the clinches sort of that came late on, but. Probably for two quite different performances from Everton, but just so satisfying that they were able to get one over on both of those sides.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected those two results. I think, um, even if you just go back to before the Forest game, and I think the build up to that, I think there was actually quite a lot of pressure on that game, to be honest. Because I think if you don't win that game, then you start to look at the fixture list a lot differently, and the pressure's back on. Then obviously, you will have gone 2 games since the points deduction, without winning, and obviously the fixture list is still only going to get harder as we go into the winter break. But they responded, at Forest brilliantly, and then the 2 home games, Newcastle in particular. I mentioned how much I enjoyed that. I think it's probably the most enjoyable game at Goodison that I've been at for a long time. I think we had a discussion after that. I think you mentioned, obviously, probably ignoring the season of COVID, you probably have to go back to the late games in Marco Silva's first season. Thinking of the 4-0 against Manchester United, the wins over Arsenal. I think we beat Chelsea as well in quite quick succession. I think both games, even the Chelsea one, they're obviously quite different from a bunch of different perspectives, but I think they were just enjoyable more than anything else. And it's been a long time since, especially in a league fixture, you've been able to say that by going to Goodison. And I think that's probably the most pleasing thing. And I think, to be honest, when it comes back to the whole wider picture, I think the last week has probably epitomised everything, to be honest, and what this football club is at the moment, and the type of unity, but also the actual, it's a type of unity where it's got like actual foundations to it. It doesn't seem flimsy, if that makes sense. And obviously to do it with 3 clean sheets and, what was it, 6 goals, I think, as well. Yeah, I think we 9 points from those 3 games is more or the same as Luton, obviously more than Burnley and Sheffield United. So yeah, I think in the perspective of the actual league table, I think it was massive.
Yeah, and that's what some of the people keep saying, isn't it? Like about Everton, it's a good season for Everton to have this deduction when you look at it like that, but. So you could flip it and say, well, maybe we could be getting in Europe if we didn't have these points taken off us, or at least being in the conversation. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, Jake, it's just like it's that time of year, isn't it? When if you're not very fond of your team and you're not playing well, that it's quite annoying because there is so much footy coming. And like in the past, we sort of got to this bank of games, and you looked ahead and you thought, whatever it is, like 8 games in 24 days or whatever you play at this time of year. And you think, oh God, fucking hell, like this is going to be an absolute slog. And it will be a slog for the players because we have got quite a small squad. I think we're going to get injuries. We've probably got another suspension on the way at some point with Decore as well. But like I'm not like looking at it now and feeling like, oh God, we've got to endure these. I'm sort of thinking, Fulham at home, Carabao Cup quarter final. What an opportunity that is. Spurs away. We've got to, it's going to be a test, but it's a good chance to extend our away record. And even going back a few weeks, I was sort of joking about what kind of squad would be left when City rock up on the 27th and how many goalies we'll have on the bench for that game. But all of a sudden you're thinking, why not? Goodison under lights, get us back in there for that game as well. And it's just nice when there is so much footy to be feeling good about your football team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think point that was just made before as well is that I think I might have said this a couple of weeks ago, but it is enjoyable at the moment. You go and you're seeing a team who can pass it. They've got a system. They believe in it. They're playing together. There's a proper togetherness at the moment, and I think the type of football that we're playing under Dyche, you could look at it and you could call it risky to a degree because look at Newcastle, for example. We've seen the opposite of that, where for 80 minutes you're playing a very patient game. Newcastle was the example of where that then pays off. But if Newcastle would have scored, then it feels the opposite. So there is that element of risk to it. But for me, it just makes it enjoyable. I'd much rather go to a game where I think we were talking about the Palace one a couple of weeks ago, where it was proper like two sides just playing, and you don't mind. You know what I mean? Like you're picking up great results. We've picked up great results over the last week. And if you do drop them, you don't mind because you're buying into a philosophy, you're buying into a way of playing, you're buying into players who are playing for the shirt, playing for the club, playing for the manager, playing for each other. And so, you're going into this period where you go, yeah, we might drop some points, but it just doesn't feel the same as that dread that we have had. And I'm looking forward to every game now. As soon as the game's finished, I'm thinking I wish we could play tomorrow. Because you're just in that form where you just want to be playing.
Yeah, maybe we had a bigger squad. I'd be thinking like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm quite glad they've got a 7-day break this week. But I think the other thing as well, Mick, that I was sort of thinking about today is that, like, it sort of feels now, and I think Connor mentioned on the podcast after the game at the weekend, I couldn't believe it. We've won 9 and 12 now, which is, feels like such a huge achievement for this team. Never mind 3 in a row. But I think if you look at the season as a whole now, and you sort of look at the body of work that this team and this manager have produced, like I think we can safely say now that, and it's easy to say it now looking back at those results than when we were in them and we were getting beat at home, the Fulham game, the Wolves game, maybe the Luton game to a lesser extent at home. Like when you look at them overall, like they very much feel like the outliers in all this. Like they were the games where, if you plotted one of your graphs, you do so well. Like they would be like on the outside of all these things if you put results up against performance or whatever. And I think it's hard to sort of think of them as being the outliers when it's at the very start of the season and you're losing games and you're in those moments. But now you've got however many games in the league. We played 15 games. We've got cup matches as well, which we've got through. It feels like there's enough of a sample size there now to go, right, this is genuinely a good team doing a lot of things well. Sometimes it might not go well, but they feel like they're going to be the odd ones out overall over the course of the season.
Yeah, I think even just going back to those early games, and you compare the state of the team that was on the pitch against Fulham and Wolves. I think we spoke about it with Paddy last week, and about how in the Wolves match the substitutes that came on to try and pull something back in that match was Tom Cannon and Michael Keane going up front, and it seems like a far away reality to where we are now, even if even if Dyche might not be the person who loves substitutes the most in terms of football managers. But I think you're chasing a game tomorrow. I think the healthiness of the squad looks a lot stronger. But yeah, I agree. You know, I listened to the post match on Monday after the match on Sunday, and echoed a lot of people's thoughts. And I think, you know, especially after I watched the match back on Tuesday from the game on Sunday. You know, I think looking back at the week completely, and I think the season as a whole, but this week in particular, I think has really epitomised why I thought initially Sean Dyche was the person who needed to come in to I suppose take over from Lampard, and I think why I thought his, you know, skill set suited this football club so much. And there's definitely been periods, I think last season, sorry, of doubt, because I think we were all kind of, again, something we probably spoke about last week. You know, you remember that crazy spell of games at the end of last season where it was almost the exact opposite of what you kind of expected from a Sean Dyche team. But I think what we're seeing now, and what we've seen, to be honest, throughout the majority of the season, really, is exactly what I expected from the very beginning. And I think the defensive side of things in particular, which I think, you know, it feels like Sunday especially was a really good example, because I don't think we were our best on Sunday at all. That felt like, probably, especially at home, is probably, I wouldn't say the worst. I don't think worst is probably the right word, but it felt like the floor for the side at the moment. And I think that says a lot in terms of how certain standards have been raised. The fact that, you know, I remember a half time on Sunday, you know, coming out a little bit. I think probably everyone had the same attitude, as that these players look a little bit goosed after Thursday, and I'm not sure anyone had the expectation that they were going to be able to replicate the same intensity, you know, only 2 or 3 days later. But I think the first half was a proper reality check, and that, yeah, these players have absolutely played their all on Sunday. I played their all on Thursday, and obviously find it difficult. And yet, despite that, I thought Chelsea, who had an extra day's rest, who obviously didn't put in the same intensity against Manchester United as we did against Newcastle United, barely laid, you know, a glove on us, really. You know, they had a decent opportunity from a set piece, and I think there was a chance early on when Mudryk got the better of Young, but I think it was pulled back for offside. I'm not actually sure why, but it was pulled back for offside anyway. You know, so despite that, despite us not being our best, and I know Chelsea obviously aren't all that at the moment anyway, but there's still, I think you look at the money that's been spent and the quality that they have on that pitch anyway. The fact that you could almost say we didn't even get out of second gear, really, especially first half, and we were able to keep that game almost how we wanted it. But I think ultimately, I think the last week overall is just kind of summed up why I enjoy watching Everton at the moment. You know, there's something to be said about, and it's not perfect, and the squad and the manager and the individuals have the limitations. You know, I'm sure we'll all go back on Saturday absolutely, you know, fuming at Abdoulaye Doucouré not being able to trap a ball or anything like that, or just not being able to just keep the ball for longer than 30 seconds. But ultimately, there's something to be said of this. Never mind that, like, you know, irrespective of the standard, I suppose, you know, there's something to be said of being able to watch your team and you have absolute faith and absolute know-how, and you can see those players know exactly what their job is. They know exactly what they're doing in pretty much every element of the game. You know, the attack and play, albeit it's not the prettiest or it's not the most fluid. You know, it's very clear what the ambition is, how they're meant to create opportunities. You know, I think that was again summed up in the first half against Newcastle, how often they were able to turn the ball over high and create chances. They did the same against Manchester United. The difference was obviously they weren't able to make them pay, and then in the second half against Newcastle, they were able to do it twice. And obviously, probably the biggest elements, the biggest, you know, bow in our, whatever it's called, in our arrow or something. I don't know. You know,
all the words are in there, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. Is our ability from set plays. You know, I think that epitomises everything full stop at the moment. It's that everyone almost knows what we're going to do. It's that long, deep ball to James Tarkowski, whether it's from a direct free kick or from a corner. It's always going there pretty much 7 or 8 times out of 10. We all know it, and that must mean the opposition teams know, and it's so difficult to stop. And then even when you go back to like the defensive side of things, you know, this is just a team that has, well, a team that I watch that I have so much trust in at the moment, and it's probably a long time since I've been able to say that. And I'm sure there'll still be lows throughout the season. Like I said, there are limitations, and they're obviously on top of their game at the moment. But right now is the exact reason why I thought Sean Dyche was the man from the start. This is what I expected, and this is what we're now getting. And that those characteristics ultimately lead to be able to go into Nottingham Forest and being able to grind out a game, grind out a result, and then playing with the intensity and the energy that we did on Thursday, and then switching again back to how we played on Sunday. This team's just finding ways to win at the moment, and is not being lucky, is not being, is not even just playing poorly and winning. Like they weren't particularly brilliant on Sunday, but probably poor still isn't the word. And yet they've still been able to win those 3 games, deservedly so. And it's probably my favourite Everton team for a long time at the moment. Probably the COVID team maybe, but obviously the connotations around that season, you never really felt as connected as you did now. And now it's like, things get posted on social media the last couple of days for all the Christmas stuff, and you're just enjoying watching.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just waiting for Yelovich in a box to pop up again.
I don't think they've ever topped that Christmas advert, have they?
No.
Ever since they did that. But like Mick said there, Jake, about all the on-pitch stuff, and I completely agree. And I think where I've been really impressed with the manager as well. And again, it's one of those where you look back and you can see, and you can say you were impressed, and you can say that this has all worked. Because at times, some of the things he said and some of the things he's done have done me head in regards to, sometimes I want to see him. Just last season, I just wanted them to tell me what was wrong with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Like I just want to know, and it did me head in that he didn't. And like this season, when we were losing at home, I just wanted him to just be a bit more annoyed and show a bit more fire in the press conference. But he just did his usual level, usual answers, etc., etc. But now with the other side of all that, and you look back on it, and we're coming up to nearly a year where he's been in charge, and you think about the on-pitch stuff and how we've obviously improved there, as Mick said, but off the pitch as well. I think him just being that level head all the time, not getting too high if we win, not getting too low if we lose, coming out and just giving the fans a little clap at the end of every game, regardless of whether we win 3-0 like Thursday or whether we get beat 4-1. That's just him. And I think that has been dead important because, as I've just illustrated then in what I said, we all seem to get too high when we're doing really well. We all seem to get too maybe a bit downbeat when we're doing poorly. And certainly this season where we started off badly, where we've had the 10-point deduction, I think it would have been easier for different managers who maybe are a bit a bit more emotional in their approach to kind of let it get to them and let it seep into the group and let that feeling of pity and this is nothing to do with us get in there. But clearly he hasn't, has he? He's just stayed on with his mentality, on with his clear messaging, and that feeling of why us, this is nothing to do with us, pitying yourself has not permeated the group at all.
No, I think you're spot on, really, because I think, we sometimes I'm dying for them to go, these are the best fans in the world. And you're like, that's the type of thing that we want in it. And we go,
go full Marnus,
yeah, give us a little bit more. But that's exactly right. We've bought into managers so quickly where, even the likes of Lampard, we all love Lampard because he kind of got behind us, but he was a crap manager. We've got into a situation where that unbelievable first season that Martinez had, and we have Emperor Roberto on the park end. You're like, we've been dead weird. We are really weird, and we have acted really weird. Selling Roberto Martinez's brown shoes in an auction, what are we doing? Why are we so weird? And I think Sean Dyche coming in. I agree with Mick, and I'd say that I think we needed to get rid of our arrogance. We had an arrogance. A lot of us had an arrogance, and I'll put myself in that bracket. I thought we were better than Sean Dyche. A couple of years ago, I was like, we are better than Sean. I do not. When people were saying that they wanted him, I was like, absolutely not. And Carlo Ancelotti aside, you would have took Sean Dyche probably over any of those managers. I think what he has done is he's instilled this kind of calmness, this just a plan. That's what he always comes across as calm, reflective, and buying into a plan that you know, he'll just stick with that. Now, don't get me wrong, that plan starts going wrong and you have that stubbornness, then it's the complete other way around. But right now, it seems to be paying off, and I think he's really instilled that in the players as well, that calmness, the togetherness, the belief in it. And yeah, you know, we don't want to get carried away and be having another mural or anything. But so all I'd say right now is that I'm really happy with him as a manager. And what I will say is one of the things that I think I've said this before, but one of the things that he deserves the most credit for is his handling of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his rehab, the again, I think it probably says more about Sean Dyche as a man and his approach to all this, is that he had a start and he had an end, and he was getting through that. He was getting to the end of that rehab program regardless. And all of us were kind of like frustrated at that, because you're like, you know, we just want him to play. And I think that's what's done the lad no favours over the last couple of years. But Sean Dyche come in, he said he's got a rehab plan and he's getting to the end of it. And regardless of results, doesn't matter, he's getting to the end of it. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I feel like if Everton said to him, "Do you want to put a mural up of you on the side of the stadium?" he would definitely say no. I can't imagine. I think Martinez would have quite fancied. Well, he obviously did quite fancy it because it went off quickly. But Dyche, I don't know. Maybe just get him like one of those little stones of Bramley Moore. That feels like a sort of like a subtle tribute to him. Yeah.
Do you want to buy his shoes?
I've never looked at his
massive
shoes. What shoes does he wear?
I don't know, but they'll probably be massive, I reckon.
Yeah, just plain black. I did love his comments after the game about Dobbin's celebration. I wasn't surprised in himself that he made them, but he made them like the exact same comments to like 3 or 4 different outlets, like in the exact same way. It's sort of like, oh, I just love the authenticity of it, you know, no silly dance and stuff like that. And then he repeats that line himself 4 times, which clearly makes it unauthentic as well. But listen, he's got every right to do what he wants at the moment. I suppose we should speak about that moment, Mick, as well, wasn't it? Because listen, that was the absolute cap, wasn't it, on the 3 wins, really. You know, it would have been amazing if we'd won 1-0 at the weekend, but you know, talk about getting the icing on the cake and just the goal, the celebration, all the players together. It was just the absolute perfect little garnish, wasn't it, on an amazing few days.
Yeah, my season ticket's in top balcony 5, right in that corner of the park end. So where he sprinted to in the corner and celebrated properly was more or less right in front of me and pretty much on top of it. It was. I think that was a big moment, and I think that was also a big moment for Bayern, I suppose, because from fans and I suppose also from players like Lewis Dobbin, you know, just the moment itself was fantastic. The strike itself is so good. You know, I'm fairly sure it's with his weakest foot. You know, and I remember talking to the pub afterwards, and you know, earlier on in the second half, Mikolenko tries to do something very similar, and it spoons it out for a throw-in or something. So it was a really good finish, and obviously the celebration was fantastic. But I think he's not had a lot of minutes, obviously, and I don't think he got on in maybe got on at the end of the cup game against Burnley, but probably hasn't played much since, you know, the early start of the season when he had to play. And I think there was probably a lot of surprise when he came on ahead of Danjuma. But I think in the way some managers do it, it's almost like a key moment to show, you know, if you've been working hard in training and I feel you're ideal for the situation, then I am going to play you. And I think for players like Lewis Dobbin and anyone else in the under-21s or anyone else who's out on loan or even in younger categories who probably, because let's be honest, there are, I think, perceptions towards Sean Dyche and his probably handling of young players, and I think probably hasn't helped himself with the Ashley Young and Nathan Patterson situation there. But I think that was a key moment, and I think if you're Lewis Dobbin in particular, then you've got to say, though, you know, he has given me opportunity now, and I've taken it, and I've got to keep on doing that now. And who knows whether he has, you know, any sort of resemblance of an Everton career going forward. But I think in that moment, you know, I think it's just a real brilliant way to, I think, cap the whole week more than anything else, because I think it just just summed up the progress of probably him specifically, but of the team. And again, I think it just goes back to the point we made before about how enjoyable it is to be around Everton at the moment, and it's not something that's been said at all pretty much for about 2 or 3 years. So yeah, a really, really good moment, and hopefully he can kick on. I'm sure, if I was Lewis Dobbin, I'd have my eyes on that Fulham game. Absolutely. I know it's quarter final, but obviously it'll still be a moment where I assume as if you're the manager, you probably still might be looking to rest someone like Harrison or McNeil with the fixtures coming up. So hopefully he at least gets some minutes in that game.
Yeah, there's loads of little moments like that throughout the game, I think, Jake. Like, obviously, the second goal and the celebration's the most obvious example of it, but just like players, like, just being ready to congratulate each other at times for little things they did. Like, there's one when Mikalenko made a great tackle and everybody, like, he was on the floor and the ball goes out of play and everyone just goes up to him and, like, big back slaps, like, hike him up and, giving him loads of praise. Like, the Corey did one in front of the Gladys Street where I think Shepherd and Mudrick out of play and, like, gave it loads, and Arna came over to him. Like, just little things like that. Just make, you're in the ground and you just give it a fist pump yourself, don't you? You can't help it because you just love to see, like, players celebrating things like tackles and blocks and shepherding the ball out to play when everyone's buying in to try and win this game.
That's it. I think there's just a proper togetherness at the moment. And even in a complete reverse way. I think Jordan Pickford and Tarkovsky, who just seem to just absolutely, like, row like a married couple constantly throughout the game, but in a way that's the togetherness as well. They'll be screaming at each other and then they'll give each other a little slap on the back and get on with it. And I think there's just a mutual respect. I think that respect comes from seeing that if you're playing football, you're doing anything, if you can see that your colleagues and your peers, the people who are stood there next to you, are willing to give everything like what you are for your team and for that result, then I think you're just grateful for everyone. And I was just thinking there though, when Mick was talking there, I think it's interesting that with Sean Dyche, because he has actually given, like, he's swapped and changed, apart from Dan Juma, who you'd probably say just doesn't fancy at all.
Something not right there, is there? Like,
yeah,
that felt like a pointed message, like Mick said. It's like,
he
the
doesn't.
thing is, like, Dan Juma, like, you'll be fuming and annoyed. Like, how can you argue with anything the manager's doing at the moment?
Well, exactly, but like he is, he's putting better on, he's putting Chimity on, he's putting Dobbin on now, and he is giving people that chance. And I think he is mixing that up a bit. I mean, you could argue that he could be making subs more or quicker, but he doesn't fancy Dan Juma. And I don't know, maybe you could look a little bit into that. He's obviously not wanted by his parent club. He's not being wanted by Spurs again, and he's just sat on our bench. But I would say, I give credit to the manager there for giving people a chance. And Dobbin came on and absolutely took that chance. But you saw how made up they all were for him. Then there is that proper togetherness now, which is, it's just, that's what we want to see, because we feel, and I know all football fans will, it's nothing special or unique about Everton, but you feel a bit an ownership of a club. And when people say about Evertonians in particular, which we hear all the time, is that we expect you to go in hard, and Evertonians will celebrate a hard tackle as much as a goal. But I think it is that ownership of who we are, what we've got. We're not competing for trophies at the moment, or arguably we are this season. But we all we want is, we want people who can show us and demonstrate to us that they care about our club and that they're willing to put everything on the line for us, because that's what we need. And I think we've got, Mick said there, that this group of players is arguably one of the most likable group of players in a long time, and they just seem to all be made up with each other. But what I would say is that Sean Dyche has put them through the paces, and got them fit. And I think, yes, they were blowing at times throughout this week, but you just look at somebody like Dwight McNeil, and when he picks that ball up and he goes on that sprint, I mean, that lad's fitness is unbelievable at the moment. And for you to be blown because you've done as much as you've done in that week, but to get that ball, pick it up, take it on that sprint, put that ball through to Calvert-Lewin, which eventually led to the goal. I just think it's a lot to be said for the fitness of the squad.
Yeah, definitely. Like that was the moments of the game for me. Like that's the one bit of real class in the football match, like that, because that pass is like,
that was so good. Yeah,
like I said to Dave on Monday, like that's like a Rodriguez level pass, like the weight of it, and like the fact that, like you said, he's gone on like a 40-yard run. Like to have that composure
Yeah.
and precision at the end of that run to be able to thread that perfectly is so
If
good.
Decore wasn't there, we'd be absolutely furious that that ball didn't end up in the net.
You know what? Like in the ground, I thought it was like a sitter, but watching it back, I felt like one of them where like he probably should score, but like it's one of them where you've got to be brave to go in as well, because you know you're going to get smashed. And like, you know, going back to Calvert-Lewin, like when you know you've been injured so much and you've worked so hard to get back to fitness, and like, you know, me and you, Mick, were at Villa, not the exact same situation, but he flung himself into a challenge with the goalkeeper at Villa, broke his cheekbone and was out for a few weeks. Like the fact that he's throwing himself in there for the cause and trying to get to the end of it, I think is good. That he, you know, it's obviously brave, which is good, but shows that he feels confident in his own durability, and he's fully invested in all this as well. So it was good to see. Like, just Decore celebrated by doing the salute, didn't he, with McNeil? Like, I wonder if Dyche is happy with them. Is a salute allowed? I mean, McNeil really enjoyed it, didn't he? Looking at the pictures, but I don't know if Dyche did on the sidelines or not.
Yeah, he'd still call it nonsense, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it crosses the threshold of nonsense or not, but
both of them will get dropped on Saturday now.
Yeah. Yeah, both be out the side. Just very quickly, looking ahead a bit to Burnley at the weekend. Obviously, we'll have to make changes. No Drissage, but you think Nana would come in. It's a centre back where obviously Jared Branthwaite's just been absolutely amazing, hasn't he? Like he was so good again at the weekend, but like nobody's really speaking about it because he's just always this good now. Keane looks like he's injured as well. Could potentially be out for a few weeks. So is it just simply Ben Godfrey, Mick, or is the scope here to do something a bit mad with some of these players, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's got to be on it. I think, especially with Drissage out as well, isn't he? So I don't think that scope or freedom is actually there, to be honest. I think ideally, I know it's probably 50-50 down the middle in terms of people's opinions, but I'd probably prefer Michael Keane instead of Godfrey. But yeah, I think it's Godfrey's just got to see it as an opportunity, hasn't he? You know, the team's playing well, it's winning every week. You know, 3 clean sheets on the bounce. You know, it's not like he's coming into, you know, a bad side, which has probably been the case pretty much any other time he's played in the league for the past 18 months. So, you know, I suppose it's almost a little bit of a clean slate. I don't think, other than maybe 1 or 2 times when he came off the bench, I'm trying to think now, did he come off the bench as a substitute against? There was someone.
I mean, this season, he started against Doncaster in the season.
Yeah.
But I can't think of playing another minute other than that, really.
There's definitely been a game where he came on late in the Premier League and we were trying to hold on for a win, I think. There's been so many wins, though, Matt. It's just hard
let's keep track of all the wins. But, like...
I know, yeah.
God, sorry, mate.
No, it's gone. You go.
No, I was just going to say, like, sort of throw this to either of you, really. Like, it's one of them where you look at it and it's like, you know, your dog's just burst in. Obviously, keen for a chat about Ben Godfrey. But like the style of football playing at the moment, like you think of the best version we've seen of Ben Godfrey, which is obviously a long time ago now. But like this aggressive, you know, direct style should really quite suit him, shouldn't it, Jake? You'd think, and like coming in and playing next to someone like Tarkowski in particular, who has been so settled and in the team, like. If he's ever going to like reignite his Everton career and get back on track and become a viable option for us again, like surely now is the time to start that, isn't it? Because like Mick said, there's not really many better, you know, not really many better setups to come into. Is there? Mick just mentioned there, Sheffield United, he came on when Tarkowski got hit in the face late on, and I don't think he had a great few minutes there even when he came on, did he?
1 minute he got, just
seeing. But like going back, like this should be a great. You know, it's pretty much a perfect setup to come in for him, isn't it?
Do you know what? It's It's one of them. He has been the forgotten man, but we're talking about players taking the chances here. It's easy to forget how excited we were about Ben Godfrey when he came in. I think pre-COVID, because I think he really struggled with COVID and long COVID and things, didn't he? And he never really saw much after that. And you know what? Even looking cynically, there's reports that Tottenham is sniffing around Ben Godfrey at the moment. So put yourself in the shop window. Do what you can, to prove that actually you're a player worthy of a Premier League career. And if other clubs looking at you, if you're not going to get that chance at Everton, which you'd argue he's probably not, based on them only playing 1 minute in Premier League this year, then it's an opportunity for him to take his chance. I do agree with Mick, really, because when you said there about, I didn't realise that Michael Keane was out, and I was like, oh no. But yeah, it's an opportunity. He's coming into a solid team, a solid defence at the moment. On the other hand, it might make us all realise just how good Branthwaite has been, because he's been phenomenal. He has been absolutely phenomenal this season. But yeah, looking at the positives, an opportunity for him to come in, to make his mark, to prove that he's a player, and be seen. And that doesn't necessarily mean just to be seen by the likes of Tottenham. He's got an opportunity there as what will probably be the third choice if he's to make a bit of an impression.
Yeah, and I'd rather him coming to the team next to Tarkowski than Branthwaite. Like, if that makes sense. As good as Branthwaite's being, like, he feels like Tarkowski's like a good player to have next to him. And
he's the leader, isn't he?
Yeah. And listen, Burnley have been pretty dreadful at home, haven't they, as well, by and large. So it's not like we're going to City away, I suppose, where you would be potentially under massive pressure. So let's see. Ready to back all these lads at the moment. Not gonna get negative about any of them coming into the side. They are very much in the good books, the Toffees, at the moment. Right, we'll leave it there anyway. Cheers to Jake. Cheers to Mick. I'll be building up to that game against Burnley across all the usual channels. Weekly will be out later in the week. I'm speaking to Natalie Bromley. Always great on all things Burnley. That'll be out at some point tomorrow. I've got mailbag, and we've got lots more coming up here on the Blue Room. Up the Toffees. We'll speak to you again very soon.